tonight on A News at 5.
This is a historic day, not only in our province, but in the country.
While I am disappointed with the results, the public has very clearly spoken.
BC votes to scrap the harmonized sales tax. So what's next?
I'm Louise Hartland. Close to 55% of referendum voters got their way today. Coming up on A News, we talk to the people who are happy to say goodbye to the HST.
I'm Andrew Johnson. The voters have spoken and the HST is on the way out. But what about the hundreds of thousands who voted to keep the tax? Now they're making some dire predictions about our economic future. That story just ahead.
Also tonight, some tense moments at a Vancouver Island summer camp as an old-growth tree goes up in flames in the tinder-dry woods. Those stories and a full 2 hours of Your Island News begins right now.
This is A News at 5.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. The HST is dead. British Columbia voters have had their say, and they have said that the harmonized sales tax must go, so its days are numbered. More than 1.6 million BC voters cast a ballot in the HST referendum, and more than half of them said yes to eliminating the harmonized tax to return to a separate provincial sales tax and the GST. More than 54% of voters rejected the tax, 9% more than the 45% who voted to keep it. So what happens now, and what's the impact on your family and on the provincial economy? Stephen Andrew begins our team coverage.
It's a vote that will shake up BC politics and send shockwaves through the province's finances.
The yes side, 54.73%, and the no side, 45.27%, and the rejected, about 0.17%.
That means the harmonized sales tax is dead. On March 31st, 2013, British Columbians will no longer pay HST and will once again pay GST and provincial sales tax. And the man who campaigned to scrap the HST, a jubilant former Premier Bill Vander Zalm, is proclaiming the result a win for democracy.
It sent a message to politicians throughout our country especially that they can't simply do things because it's the will of a premier or the party, that they have to, in fact, on an issue as big as we see it here, consult the people.
The government suspected weeks ago the HST was going to be defeated and already has a team in place working to bring back the old sales tax system.
We'll have continuing discussions with the federal government on exiting the agreement we have. It's commonly known as Sitka with respect to the HST.
It's the first time in history any jurisdiction has voted to reject a harmonized sales tax. BC's finance minister says his government has only itself to blame.
You can't be evasive about this. The buck stops with us. We're responsible. And I don't want to point fingers and try and defray responsibility. We accept the responsibility.
But the decision comes at an estimated cost of $3 billion, including rehiring staff to collect the PST and repaying Ottawa the $1.6 billion it gave the province to set up the HST.
That is going to be subject to negotiations and discussion. I'm not going to be having a public negotiation, but we will honor the commitment we made to keep up our end of the bargain.
BC's finance minister is calling today's result a bump in the road, one that he says is manageable. But he's warning the province will have to tighten his belt, and he's promising British Columbians will have a say in how the province moves forward. And in an effort to calm financial markets, Kevin Falcon says BC will meet its budget goals.
The NDP is celebrating. It sees the referendum as foreshadowing of an election result, and sensing blood, it is striking out at the Liberals.
A campaign that was fundamentally a grassroots campaign, beat a government campaign by Liberals and their allies that misused public funds on Liberal partisan ads and engaged, I think, in one of the most lopsided spending campaigns this province, this country has ever seen.
Christy Clark sees a different picture.
I think there are a whole lot of different things at play.
The Liberals are trying to put a brave and positive face on the HST defeat, wanting to talk only about the province's future economic prosperity.
While I am disappointed with the results, the public has very clearly spoken, and now is the time to turn the page.
And the Premier is once again touting a made-in-BC job creation plan, one that she promises will be unveiled sometime in October.
Stephen Andrew joins us now with more live at the legislature. Stephen, how is this result going to sway Christy Clark's plans for a possible fall election? And how much damage has this done to the Liberals?
Well, if Christy Clark is considering calling an election, she's certainly not showing her cards right now, Hudson. I mean, she has until 2013, May of that year, to call the election. But Kevin Falcon laid out a plan today to replace the HST that took us at least until February 2012 when he's going to produce a budget. So it's doubtful she's going to at least call the election before then. As to the damage to the Liberals, this really could be the beginning of a slow death for the Liberals if they can't change that message off of this HST and the amount of money that it's wasted. Already HST has stacked up a pretty impressive body count. I mean, you've got Gordon Campbell, Colin Hanson has gone, and also Blair Lexham left the Liberals for a period of time. So unless they can change that message, I'd say that it really is going to cause a major concern as we move forward.
And the likelihood of punishing British Columbians in that spring budget?
Well, I think Kevin Falcon really was trying to stay away from today. He says he's going to consult British Columbians, so they've got to be very, very careful. I don't think they're going to come in with extreme measures, certainly because I think the public would react in such a very strong way that it wouldn't do them any good. So I think they're going to try and find those savings in areas that really don't affect British Columbians that much.
All right, Stephen, thank you. We'll check back with you at 6.
Okay.
Now, let's sample some reaction from both sides. There's celebration, as you might expect, in the Yes campaign tonight, which won the majority to eliminate the tax. The referendum, of course, was born out of that petition campaign, which was fed by the grassroots anger across the province about the way the Liberal government brought the tax in. Today, opponents of the HST are celebrating, none more so than in the restaurant industry and in small business. K News reporter Louise Hartland has the story.
Every penny counts. We're in the kind of industry that every penny counts.
The serving staff at Milestone's restaurant are walking a little lighter today. Most of them are students who rely on tip money to make ends meet.
The HST hurt our business, and it also hurt the individual servers because people started tipping 12% instead of 15% because the math was already done for you. And I think that was a simple thing that no one actually anticipated would happen.
Management says less people are eating out, a trend many other restaurants say they have also been dealing with since the HST was implemented in July of last year. While restaurant groups were some of the most vocal about kicking the new tax, other businesses also put up a fight. This was the scene outside Capital City Cycles last month. Dozens of angry cyclists rallying to put the brakes on the HST. Now that the tax is on its way out, there is relief in sight.
I can imagine it will only help business for us. It essentially means someone who would buy, a $600 bike can now buy, a $700 bike potentially, and it'll be good for us, good for the consumer. Everybody wins.
Part of the uproar in the cycling community was extra tax on bikes. Riders say the government should reward people for doing something to help the environment, not punish them.
And bicycles and other green initiatives, I believe there's a fair amount of them that got bumped up to 12% tax, and it'll make a big difference for the whole industry, really.
Even people who voted yes are wondering what lies ahead.
That's the way I voted, and I guess I'm a little bit wary of how that's going to play out in the future, what this provincial government's going to do in response to that, whether they're going to, in fact, raise other taxes to make up for the lost revenue.
But for now, the people working here will take it.
So I think the government did the right thing and listened to the people, and the people said, hey, we're not happy with this, so now changes have to happen.
They just wish the HST would disappear as quickly as it came in. In Victoria, Louise Hartland, A News.
And the shoe is on the other foot tonight. The outrage that was expressed for so long by so many in the fight HST forces is now being felt by the people across the province who voted to try to save the tax. They believe that the BC economy is better with the HST and that their businesses have become more competitive. And their numbers are strong, not strong enough to win the vote. A News reporter Andrew Johnson now with the no side of the story.
They won't be hanging up the nail gun now at Downs Construction, but the HST was kind to the company's 55 employees.
The first thing my wife and I did is calculated the savings the HST meant to us, and we distributed those savings to our staff in the way of raises.
Downs promises the raises will survive the HST's demise, but he fears his business and our economy will suffer.
We're already facing rough times in the economy in British Columbia. The economy in the United States tanking isn't helping our economy any. And I think this is just going to be one more blow.
Ron Visser says the HST has been good for business at Sydney Tire, and he wonders if British Columbians are going to regret the way they voted.
I think we'll know in a year from now, but somebody's going to have to pay the piper. If we want the standard of living we have, somebody has to pay the taxes.
Please keep me posted. Management at Nanaimo's Coast Bastion Inn says the hotel is now going to have to look at scaling back an ambitious capital expenditure plan and make some big purchases sooner than expected.
We're going to try and fast track it to get as many purchases through big purchases before the HST expires.
Bruce Carter from the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce worries about the exact opposite happening when shoppers realize they can save on some items if they wait.
We'll see buyer behavior where people who are waiting to see whether or not the HST is coming or going are now going to say, well, I'm just going to wait now until we have a new PST.
Reaction to the referendum result on Twitter was frenzied and often negative. The social media crowd is seizing on the massive amount of money Finance Minister Kevin Falcon has confirmed BC will now have to pay back to Ottawa. One person tweets, "Can we have another referendum, please? Should the people who voted down the HST pay the $1.6 billion back to the federal government?" Another laments, "Where do you propose to get the $1.6 billion we owe the feds? Cuts? Tax increases?" Falcon admits that will be a challenge. In Victoria, Andrew Johnson, A News.
Joining us now from the legislature with the NDP's reaction to the HST outcome is the Leader of the Opposition, Adrian Dix. Mr. Dix, thanks for being with us.
Great to be on the show, Hudson. It's a great day for democracy in BC.
Well, thank you for being here. This is a victory for the opposition, to be sure, but do you really honestly believe that British Columbia is better off as a result?
Absolutely, they're better off. It was the people's referendum. 700,000 people signed petitions. It's really their referendum, and they won over liberal arrogance. This was a shift in the tax burden onto working families after several other shifts onto working families by the Liberals. And it was really a tax shift from big business to working families. People understood that. I went to 33 communities in this part of the campaign, went to small businesses, talked to small business everywhere, and they told me that the HST had hurt them, hurt the discretionary spending of people living in towns all around BC and hurt small business as a result. So I think the HST was bad for the economy. And, you know, this wasn't a thunderstorm on a sunny day, Hudson. This was a two-year campaign. People thought about it seriously, and they made, I think, the right decision.
It has been a two-year campaign. It could be, 19 months or 2 years before it's gone. It's been quite a distraction. What would you do in government if, we're 2 years closer to a provincial election? What would the NDP do?
I think what we'll see over the next period is, unfortunately, more delays. The Liberals have done nothing since 2009 but the HST. It only took them 11 months to bring the HST in, but now they're saying it'll take 19 months to bring back the PST. So it's a continued distraction, especially for people making economic decisions in their own lives. I know many people who've waited to make decisions because they didn't know what tax regime we were going to have. So the Liberal Party misled people, and they've hurt the economy through really an incoherent policy over a couple of years.
As you look at the results riding by riding, only one Liberal riding on Vancouver Island voted in favor of it. What do you take from those riding results?
What I take is that if you look across BC, all of the NDP ridings voted yes, and a majority of the Liberal ridings voted yes. And what that tells me is that it's an extremely decisive result. And fortunately, people know now. They know what the decision will be because the people have spoken. They were very clear. And in a majority of Liberal seats, people defied their own Liberal MLA and voted to scrap the HST.
Adrian Dix, we appreciate you taking time for us tonight. Thank you. All right, our thanks to Adrian Dix. Well, the last word in all of this tonight goes to you. Many people we spoke to today who voted to axe the tax said they were against it really because of the way it was brought in. The people who wanted to keep it say that small business in BC is now going to suffer. Here's what you told us this afternoon.
Well, I'm really disappointed because I have a business and it was a whole lot easier having one tax to deal with than two.
It just doesn't make sense to have the two taxes. I think it's going to be hard on small businesses.
We've been taxed as poor people to the max, and we can't afford to be taxed anymore.
I think it's a shame that they did it the wrong way, because I think in the end they're going to have to do something along that line. If they'd have done it the right way, I'm sure it would have been fine, and it's going to cost us a lot of money to do it the right way.
I think it's unfortunate because I think we're all going to pay in the end.
I'm not surprised. I mean, the government kind of brought it in kind of in a
bad faith kind of environment. So, but it would have been better if they brought it in properly.
I just thought it was better for us in the long run. If you really looked at the issue, that it seemed the better idea was to stick with it.
I think there was a lot of anger involved with the way it was brought in, and that's probably what sank it.
I feel disappointed. I think it was a good tax. I didn't like the way it was brought in, but I think ultimately it was a really good tax. So from that perspective, I don't think it's a good thing for British Columbia, but we'll live with it.
More on the HST decision coming up on A News at 6. Other news for you just ahead. Let's get a first look at your forecast. Bruce has that tonight for us from sunny, tropical Nanaimo. Bruce.
And absolutely tax-free.
Yes, a tax-free forecast.
Yes, it is, and it's a beauty for sure. You might find the sun a bit taxing if you don't have a hat on, but that's not a bad problem to have. Beautiful weekend they're coming up. Take a look outside at how we're doing right now. It's been another hot, dry, sunny, beautiful day on Vancouver Island. It's going to be that way right through the weekend. A little bit of fog in some areas. Going to cool off a little bit into next week, but in the meantime, it's just a spectacular weekend coming up. So the UV index is high, a little sunblock, a hat, and probably a beach or a lake or something would come in handy this weekend, Hudson, but it's all good news, and I'll have more coming up in a couple of minutes.
Fantastic, Bruce. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you in a while. More news still ahead tonight on A News at 5. A Nanaimo man alive tonight thanks to his quick-thinking friends. We'll show you what they did to save his life.
Local brewer Matt Phillips is celebrating 10 years in business. Just ahead on A News, we'll show you what goes into his award-winning beer.
Well, sleeping under the stars, learning how to start a fire from scratch, and making new friends and memories. Just some of the highlights of summer camp. But for some kids at Camp Thunderbird today, the last day of their outdoor education program included much more. Fire at the camp, deep in the woods of Souk, and anxious parents had to wait to pick up their children after flames engulfed a big old tree. A News reporter Irene has the story.
Burning from the inside out, flames and smoke billow from this old-growth tree at Camp Thunderbird and caught the attention of a passerby just after 9:30 this morning.
No, it's been burning for a while. Hard to say. It could be a nice little hideout for some people doing things, or who knows.
Firefighters from Souk were called in for backup, and the flames were contained before they were able to spread to the main camp where the kids were being held. Worrisome for parents kept at bay at the entrance, watching fire trucks speed by, left to wonder what was going on.
Timing-wise, it couldn't be worse in that there's parents picking up at 10 o'clock and at 10:30 on a narrow, long, windy road, so we're all stuck.
The chosen base command, go ahead.
Eventually, parents were allowed to hike in and pick up their kids. No injuries were reported, and campers didn't let the incident put a damper on their summer experience.
It was pretty cool. I kind of liked it because we got to stay longer. Yeah.
The kids and the counselors were just awesome. They were delayed by a few hours, and so that was unscheduled time, and the counselors just jumped into playing games and leading activities with the kids and kept everybody happy.
Part of the reason for blocking the road, the Machosen Fire Department had to truck in water.
Because there's no water in here and a tree in the forest in this extreme weather condition, better be safe than sorry.
A tree faller was then called to safely bring down the 54-meter tree that was burning root to tip.
Landed exactly where we wanted it to, and then our crews came around and are able now to cut it up and extinguish the fire.
Firefighters don't know how it started, but would like to remind the public the fire danger rating in and around the region is still high, and to report any signs of smoke immediately. In Souk, Aaron Glazier, A News.
An 80-year-old Nanaimo man has drowned at Departure Bay Beach. He was found just before 10:30 this morning, floating in the water. Witnesses brought him to shore and tried to revive him, but were not able to. Paramedics attended along with RCMP, but police say the man's death does not appear to be suspicious.
Members attended down there. The male was pronounced dead by the ambulance upon our arrival. We saw a bunch of kids were coming down towards the beach with their grandparents, and we deterred the people away from the area until the body recovery was completed. I can confirm that the male was 80 years old and he was from the Nanaimo area. At this time, we do not believe there is anything suspicious in his death, and the coroner service has been advised.
The coroner's service is investigating. The man's name so far has not been released. A group of lawn bowlers in Nanaimo are being hailed as heroes tonight for saving a man's life using quick thinking and a portable defibrillator. When one of the club's top players collapsed just seconds after winning a tournament, his friends went from bowling team to medical team. Our Steve Coulterman has the story.
The Nanaimo Lawn Bowling Club is inducting a new honorary member after a defibrillator borrowed from a neighbor saved a life on the green.
When he came off the green, he came and sat on a bench, and I was standing about 4 feet behind him, and I noticed that he looked a little drawn. He sat down on the bench, and I turned away, and I heard the bump as he fell onto the green.
Jean Cote had just won a tournament, but seconds later, he suffered a heart attack, collapsing in front of his friends and teammates.
911 was called. We had a member's family was here with medical knowledge, and they started the ball rolling.
One member ran straight for the senior center next door, knowing the center had an automated external defibrillator.
The people who used it, they said how user-friendly it was, how easy it was to use. It was just a little piece of equipment. It was fully instructed on the inside, and it took them through the steps to use it. And it was very, very user-friendly.
Club president Jeff Dixon says it's the AED that saved his friend's life.
To know that we can have a portable piece of equipment that's available, and to be able to do what it did to create that shock, to give that little life extension to Jean, it was incredible to know that these are there.
Now Jean is on the way to a full recovery. He's at Royal Jubilee Hospital in Victoria, preparing for surgery. He'll have a pacemaker and defibrillator implanted, and his wife says he'll be back on the green in no time.
You can't believe how he is. He's sitting here looking at me. He's feeling fabulous. You just can't believe the difference in 2 weeks, when 2 weeks ago he was on life support systems.
Since 2008, Nanaimo has installed 11 AED devices. They've already saved 3 lives. The city has spent more than $20,000 on the purchase and installation of the units, but the mayor says you can't put a price tag on life.
They found it very user-friendly, and they saved a life. And, it's just an incredible thing. It's a huge investment, but it's one that we feel is so important. And when they start paying off in dividends, that's when it's really rewarding.
The Lawn Bowling Club says it will now purchase its own AED device and will have it installed by next spring. In Nanaimo, Steve Coulterman, A News.
Also from Nanaimo tonight, the RCMP are once again warning women to be careful in the area around Westwood Lake. There has been another incident of indecent exposure, and police fear that there may be a sexual predator targeting the neighborhood. We'll have full details on that story for you coming up at 6:30 on Vancouver Island Report. An update tonight on that California sea lion rescued off Ucluelet, recovering after life-saving surgery to remove a hook embedded in its cheek. Veterinarians at the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Mammal Rescue Center say the operation went well, a success, but the 90-kilogram seal remains in critical condition. It'll be watched closely over the next few days. The adult male spotted earlier this week off Ucluelet with fishing gear hanging from his left cheek. It is the first California sea lion to be rescued by the Vancouver Aquarium Rescue Center. Still ahead, the story of the hurricane. She's being called one of the most dangerous storms to threaten the eastern U.S. coast in several years. We'll have more on Irene and where she's targeting next.
Coming up on A News.
Thousands of people are lining up outside Toronto City Hall today to pay their final respects to Jack Layton. Tonight, hear from the man who was asked to oversee tomorrow's state funeral and witness the impromptu outpouring of support here at City Hall for the man simply known as Jack.
The Big Apple is on pins and needles tonight, awaiting the arrival of Hurricane Irene. The massive storm is tracking its way north up the Atlantic seaboard and has New York City and other heavily populated areas in its sights. Authorities from U.S. President Barack Obama on down are warning Americans to get ready for a hurricane of historic proportions. New Jersey and New York City have already ordered mandatory evacuations. It's a sunny day at the beach. The surf is up along the Carolina coast, but everybody knows what's coming.
I want to remind you once again that this hurricane is real. It is headed our way. We are ready. We are prepared for the worst.
The sun is shining, but don't be misled. There is a very dangerous storm headed in our direction.
Hurricane warnings are in effect up the Atlantic seaboard. Houses and businesses boarded up. People on the move heading inland. The U.S. mobilizing for a big one.
These evacuation orders and recommended evacuations need to be heeded, and you need to be getting ready before the storm gets here.
This massive storm, more than 1,000 kilometers across, is on every American newscast, tracking the path of the storm hour by hour. The U.S. president is leaving Martha's Vineyard tomorrow before the storm hits. His vacation cut short.
If you are in the projected path of this hurricane, you have to take precautions now. Don't wait. Don't delay. We all hope for the best, but we have to be prepared for the worst.
I would encourage you not to focus too much on whether it's a Category 2 or 3. If you are in the storm path, you won't be able to tell much difference.
And as Irene pushes relentlessly north toward the coast, New York City has ordered mandatory evacuations from low-lying areas. It's the first time ever that's happened. And as of tomorrow afternoon, New York shuts down the city bus and subway system.
You only have to look at the weather maps to understand just how big this storm is and how unique it is, and it's heading basically directly for us.
Even if Irene loses some of her punch on her way up the coast, officials say it could still be a life-threatening storm surge with serious flooding, significant power outages, wind, water, and havoc. Environment Canada says the impact of Hurricane Irene will be felt in Canada on a wide swath of the eastern part of the country this weekend. The storm right now is expected to track through Maine and into northern New Brunswick by late Sunday and into early Monday. Let's check in with Bruce now, who has a look at our weekend weather forecast in Nanaimo. Pretty benign at this on this side of the country.
Yeah, you know, you told that story very well. You could have a future as a weather guy. Have you ever thought of that?
Well,
you ever thought of doing this?
I don't think so.
It's the
There's
easiest
only
job
one of
in the
you, my
building.
friend.
It's a pretty easy job, especially on days like today, believe me, Hudson, because sunny and hot. How's that grab you? Next 7 days, that's what's going to be going on. A little bit of fog here and there, a little bit of wind, but in general, very summery. Man, we're just huge summer weather coming up for us. It's been a great end to this summer. The beginning, not so much, but the end, spectacular. Outside looks like this right now. Here are the current conditions. Here in our little tropical island in the Pacific, we're doing very well. It was downright hot in some areas today, including here in Nanaimo and in the valleys, Comox, Alberni, and Cowichan. It got hot, hot, hot. Felt pretty close to 30 degrees in some areas. Doncaster, very cool, very comfortable. There's no rain going on there. There's not going to be any either. And actually, right through the 7-day forecast, any threat that we had of some rain for most areas has pretty much gone. There's your satellite shot. A couple of clouds. Like last night and the night before, we had a little bit of cloud, not a lot, but a little bit. And temperature staying pretty warm at night as well. So a little wind might be welcome to cool things off, and we do have some on the way for the South Island for tonight. And here's what's going on. Some clouds for Saanich and Esquimalt, Sydney, Victoria, and Colwood. Windy along Juan de Fuca Strait. Again, Harrow Strait, no wind for you. But windy on Juan de Fuca Strait. It will be back tomorrow afternoon. Sunny and very comfortable tomorrow. A bit cooler by the water, but 24s and 25s once you get inland for tomorrow. Now then, hot stuff here today. Nanaimo was 27 degrees. It felt like 30. And Duncan can relate to that, as can Ladysmith. And certainly at Lake Cowichan, it was nice and warm today. A couple of clouds and warm tonight. Tomorrow, hot day once again. Going to feel like close to 30 degrees when you factor in some humidity. So we have got some big summer weather coming up for this weekend. A couple of clouds in Port Alberni. Same thing for the West Coast. Tofino's having the Lantern Festival this weekend. Beautiful event at the Botanical Gardens there. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be foggy tonight. Foggy in the morning in Tofino. It's going to be a little better after that. Sunshine 28, 29 for Port Alberni. Going to feel like 32. The east side of the island, Parksville, Qualicum Beach, and Courtenay and Comox. Comox Valley Fair this weekend, you know, mostly clear skies, sunny and hot tomorrow, and those 25s and 26s will feel close to 30 degrees. Campbell River, mostly clear, a bit more cloud for the North Island, but no rain going on. Everybody's going to be clear by noon hour tomorrow. Campbell River, inland at Gold River, going to be very hot tomorrow, and again, add a few degrees when you factor in the humidity for tomorrow, and it's going to be a little cooler, but very pleasant for the North Island, 21 and 18 going on. Vancouver, nice night. Same thing for Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Aldergrove, everybody out in the valley, into Mission as well. Some clouds for tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a little bit of a foggy start, but sunny and hot. 27 in Abbotsford is going to feel like 31 or 32. 7-day forecast. So here we go. There's no rain here. There's no rain for you. Nothing coming up at all. A couple of clouds on Monday. In the Mid-Island, we thought yesterday there might be a chance of some shower activity on Monday. Not so much now. That's not going to happen. We're going to be hot and feeling close to 30 degrees for most of the weekend in the Mid-Island. So that's nice and summery. And the North Island and the West Coast, we did have a chance of some rain popping in on Sunday or Monday in the forecast yesterday. But today we do not. It's going to be sunny. Yeah, a little bit overcast for the most part, but still some sunshine, but no rain coming up. So very dry in most areas, very summery, very vacation-like Hudson. We'll take a look at this again at 6 o'clock, and I promise you none of that will have changed. Honest.
We'll check back, Bruce. We'll see. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. Well, Jack Layton loved the city of Toronto, and tonight the city is witnessing how much that city loves him right back. Thousands of mourners in Toronto are tonight paying their respects to the much-loved NDP leader as his casket lies in state inside the foyer at Toronto City Hall. Julia Burke now with more on how people are remembering Jack Layton one day before the state funeral in his honor.
Draped in a Canadian flag and flanked by 4 RCMP officers, Jack Layton's casket now lies in repose at Toronto City Hall. One by one, Canadians file by to pay their respects. Some weep openly, others pray. Outside, hundreds of people form a line that wraps around the building, waiting patiently for their chance to say goodbye. Jennifer and Alec King brought their 2-month-old baby, dressed in Jack's honor.
So I'm really glad that there's this kind of support for the family and for Olivia. I think it's really sweet and not all that surprising. He was pretty incredible.
Out front, a memorial of flowers and candles grows and mourners scrawl messages for Jack in chalk. "You were a bridge builder," says this one. "Thanks for being real," says another. And this one reads, "You helped me in 1978 and continued for decades." Mike Layton, Jack's son, took a moment to view the tributes. Everyone here today clearly touched by what they're witnessing.
The lineup tells you that in this city, those that build a city, those that create a better city, are those that are loved by the city. And Jack is clearly well loved today and will be tomorrow.
This city councillor agrees City Hall is a fitting final resting place for Jack Layton before his state funeral tomorrow. The colorful politician spent 18 years serving as a councillor, trying to make Toronto a better city.
He got AIDS funding established. He got deep lake water cooling put together. He got the public housing programs resurrected after the Harris government cut them.
This is a direct quote from Jack. He said, "Brent, I view the way I live my life every day as an act of worship."
Reverend Brent Hawks has known Jack for 30 years and says he was honored when Jack asked him to conduct tomorrow's service at Roy Thompson Hall. He says his friend Jack was very clear about what he wanted.
He did not want it just to be about his life. He wanted it also to be a call to action, that the job isn't done. There still is a lot of work to do.
Roy Thompson Hall can hold 2,600 people, and there will be limited seating for the public for Mr. Layton's funeral. There'll be big screens set up outside to handle the overflow crowd as thousands of people are expected to attend. In Toronto, Julia Burke News.
The state funeral begins at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, our time. CTV News live coverage of the Layton funeral begins tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific. We'll take a break and come back with much more on A News at 5. We'll check in with a lean, mean espresso pulling machine, all for the love of coffee. We'll show you why just ahead.
Here's what's happening on the island.
On September 11th, join the Ovarian Cancer Canada Walk of Hope and recognize someone you love who's been affected by ovarian cancer. For more information about the walk, go to ovariancanada.org. The annual Alberni District Fall Fair takes place September 8th to 11th at the Port Alberni Fairgrounds. Lots of family fun is planned, all while promoting local agriculture. For more information, go to albernifair.com.
That's what's happening on the island.
A Vancouver Island brewery is celebrating its 10th anniversary tonight. Phillips Brewing Company started out in Victoria with just 3 beers on tap. The company's founder made and brewed the beer and delivered it himself. Now Phillips has more than 15 brands sold in pubs and liquor stores across the province. Eric Thompson has a taste.
Really, at the end of the day, you can't make good beer without amazing ingredients.
Spend a few minutes with Matt Phillips and you'll soon find out he's passionate about beer.
For us, when we break open a hop and we see those little yellow lupulin glands, which is where all the joy comes from, that's where all the flavor is and all the bitterness that makes a hop really exciting, and you rub that up and you smell it and you go, that's what really gets exciting about beer.
Phillips Brewing Company is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Matt started the company with a handful of credit cards and a desire to make craft beer that was exciting and fun.
These are the fermentation vessels. This is where the beer comes from the brew house. Once we've added the hops and the grains and boiled them up.
The company is now in its 3rd location and employs more than 40 people.
70% of the brewery happened in the first 3 years in terms of the challenges and some of the cool things that happened. Also some of the more adverse challenges that we had.
Those challenges included having its Blue Truck Ale pulled off the road.
The last Blue Truck.
Due to a dispute with a company on the Lower Mainland. It's now known as Blue Buck, and it's still winning awards.
Back in 2001, when Matt started out, he had 3 brands which he delivered around the city using his Subaru station wagon. Now he has more than 15 brands, including the latest. This is the Imperial Anniversary IPA, and his products are shipped all over the province.
The chairman of the Great Canadian Beer Festival says Phillips has set the bar for other craft brewers around the province and North America.
Him making all these beers may seem like an outrageous challenge. It is to a brewer to make sure that kegs and bottles are filled with all those different types of beers. But he's a going concern. He's always working. He's got a great staff.
Over the past decade, Phillips has become more than just a brewer. He's made sure his company is environmentally responsible and supportive of the community. And that isn't about to change.
That's really where we come from. That's where our passion is. And of course, we'll be continuing to explore new realms in that way and being a big part of the community.
Phillips says he plans to continue making fun beer using quality local ingredients in the years to come. In Victoria, Eric Thompson, A News.
Well, from beer brewers to bean slingers, and one of Victoria's top baristas is in training this week for the Western Championships. Pulling the perfect shot is what this is all about, a showcase of barista skills with nothing more than coffee, a grinder, and an espresso machine. And one of Victoria's best bean slingers, Morgan Allen from Fernwood Coffee, is hoping that all will happen this weekend as he throws down for the Western Regional title. Competitors will have 15 minutes to prepare and serve 4 espressos, 4 cappuccinos, and 4 signature drinks of their own creation.
I love espresso, and I don't believe that anything needs to be added to it to make it beautiful. I believe that it's beautiful on its own. So for my drink, I do 3 different styles of espresso without any extra ingredients. Each shot has a different grind setting. There's a little more water run through some, a little less water run through the others. And that combined with the change of grind creates different characteristics in each shot.
Allen and a barista from Victoria's Discovery Coffee will compete in the Western Regionals this weekend in Victoria, all coinciding with Canada's first specialty coffee event of its kind, For the Love of Coffee, a 2-day festival dedicated to the bean. It happens Saturday and Sunday at the Crystal Garden in downtown Victoria. Still ahead, the Royals are rolling in. Veteran players arrive in Victoria getting ready for next week's main camp, and the team made a significant signing today. Myra has your Royal details next in sports. Plenty of hockey news and more. Myra's here with that. Mike.
Well, Hudson, 28 games in 4 days. Victoria Royals head coach Mark Habscheid will have watched half a season's worth of hockey come Sunday. It is non-stop action at Save On Foods Memorial Center. The inaugural Royals rookie camp continues throughout the weekend. And come Monday, the veterans take center ice. Well, the weight room is where the vets have been hiding out this week. Plenty of these young men played together last season in Chilliwack, but Logan Nelson is a newcomer and a foreigner hailing from Minnesota. He spent last season in the U.S. Hockey League and had 9 points with the Des Moines Buccaneers. 6'2", 187 pounds. Nelson brings both size and speed. And if there's a teammate out there that needs a little backup, well, he's happy to shoulder that load as well.
If needs be, I'll shed the mitts and get one for the team. So, and I can put a few pucks in the net. So hopefully I can do that here for the season for the Royals.
Through some contacts, we found him and realized he was interested in playing in the CHL in the Western Hockey League. So we're happy to have him and looking forward to seeing him in the regular season.
What do you know about the WHL?
I know it's a good league. Not a lot of the guys are a lower end class of player. They're all high end, a lot of skill, work hard, big guys. So I'm gonna have to prepare myself to fit in here.
Well, Nelson says that a successful career in the UCHL is often resulting in a college scholarship. And while a free education would be welcome, Nelson has aspirations of playing in the NHL. Since the league still does most of their shopping on this side of the border, moving to Victoria was a bit of a no-brainer.
I think the USHL is a little bit smaller. I wouldn't say faster, but less physical, I would say for sure. And like I said, it prepares you for college and not the NHL or any pro type of hockey. So I figured that it'd be a better fit for me here.
What does that say about the league?
Well, it's good. It's real good. It says a lot about the city, the building, the organization, and you know, it's competitive out there. There's good players and they have lots of choices on where to play, and he chose to play here, and he'll help our hockey team.
Well, these are long days for Coach Habscheid. 160 rookies to evaluate. A handful will be selected to attend main camp, but only one player will be able to hoist this cup. The Marmot Mug, arguably the most coveted cup in major junior hockey, will be handed to the top rookie performer. As you can see, nothing but time and extreme care went into its construction.
It's a prestigious trophy, so guys see it, they want it, they're battling hard for it, and the intensity is growing as we speak.
Absolutely the most coveted cup in major junior hockey.
Well, I would think, you know, especially having the Marmot in the mug and seeing that Marmot there, and knowing that the Marmot is going to present the cup just leads to that much more, I guess, adrenaline and desire to win that cup. And because it's the first, it's probably one of the more prestigious trophies that they'll raise above their heads in their hockey career.
Well, the Victoria Mariners suffered their first loss of the AAA Western Finals today, a 3-2 decision to Alberta. They're back in action tomorrow at 2:30, taking on Saskatchewan, but feel free to head to the Lambrick Park Diamond tonight. The Home Run Derby gets going at 6 p.m. The Nanaimo Pee Wee Pirates will be generous with the eye black every game they play this weekend. Every time they smudge it on their faces, they seem to win. And that is the goal as the Pirates host the Pee Wee Western Championships at Sir Ruxman Fields. Pirates coaching, preach, pitching, and defense, and that's served the team well so far at the tourney. If they keep on hitting the bats and pulling in the wins, you may just see the home team in Sunday's gold medal final.
Yeah, I think we're at least in the top 3, top 2. I think we have a good chance of winning this.
I don't really know. I don't want to be too cocky, but yeah, I think so. We got some pickups, and they're pretty good. We won our first game 10-3 against Manitoba, and I think we played a pretty good game.
The boys are really excited. It's so fun for them to be here in front of their home fans and family on their home park. Put a lot of work into getting the facilities ready and tweaking everything, and it was just a really great feeling. It's really nice for the boys, these 12 and 13-year-old boys, to really be appreciated and have their little moment in the limelight.
More on the Pee Wee Westerns coming up during Vancouver Island Report. Despite tries from 2 Victoria products, our national 15s fell 38-14 to the mighty Australia Barbarians in a Rugby World Cup tune-up on the Gold Coast. Former James Bay standout DTH Vander Merwe and former UVic Vike Phil Mack broke the goal line for Canada. The World Cup kicks off September 14th with Canada taking on Tonga. Well, this guy looks like he could single-handedly take on Tonga or any other nation in any given sport. Baxter Bayer is the man behind the island's summer games, and tomorrow what's billed as Vancouver Island's summer sporting experience officially kicks off on the West Shore Parks and Recreation. What began as a 3-on-3 basketball tournament 12 years ago is now 2 days of hoops, 7-a-side soccer, and slow pitch. Baxter, as you can see, has mastered them all and is taking on all comers.
There's huge bragging rights on the line, that's for sure, especially among the basketball. That's a big title to wear. How do you stay so skilled over 3 different disciplines? Well, I like to train 3 different sports per day, work hard, and play hard. But when I play hard, I work hard.
Well said, Baxter. If your skills aren't quite up to this level, you can always take in the beer garden, barbecue, live DJs, and MCs. You can go online now and register a team, and if you do, bring a can of food. Donations are being accepted to the Goldstream Food Bank.
That's more my speed.
See you in the beer gardens?
Yeah.
It's a great event. Baxter's done a fantastic job with that event for the past 12 years. So.
Excellent. Love your hair, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
Looks
yeah.
great.
Different hair, same old girl.
It looks wonderful.
Thanks.
You. See you at 6:45.
You will.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. More as A News at 5 continues. When we come back, singing the blues. It's festival season on Vancouver Island. Time for a look at the arts. Adam has tonight off. If you're looking for some family fun tomorrow, the merchants who call Johnson Street in downtown Victoria have a suggestion for you. The Lojo Street Fest. Those 2 blocks of Lower Johnson, known as the Lojo Shopping District, will be closed to traffic for a giant block party. Businesses on the street got together to organize the event last year, and it was such a hit, it's being put on again. There'll be sidewalk sales, food, a dunk tank, a bouncy castle for the kids, a paintball firing range for adults. Along with the good time, the organizers are hoping to raise money, $6,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
The average cost to grant a wish is $6,000, and the aim of the Johnson Street Fest is to grant 1 wish for a local family or a local wish child who is fighting a life-threatening medical condition.
There's fun things going on all day long, the whole family, and it's really a representation of what all the merchants on Johnson Street have to offer to the community.
You know, an active, vibrant downtown is so important to everyone within the region. So I encourage everybody, come on down to Johnson Street.
And to help raise money for Make-A-Wish, Victoria Mayor Dean Fortin is getting involved. He's given up his parking spot outside City Hall for a full week if it goes to the highest bidder. The Johnson Street Festival's goal is to promote local area businesses while giving back to the community. A News is a proud partner in the project. The festival runs, by the way, from 11 o'clock until 6. And musicians in Nanaimo are singing the blues this weekend at the city's annual Summertime Blues Festival. It's being held in Maffeo Sutton Park in downtown Nanaimo tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. Tickets are available at the gate, and you can buy a 3-day pass or single-day tickets to see a full slate of performers. To find out more on it, who's playing, and showtimes, visit NanaimoBlues.com. Much more to come. More HST coverage for you in our next hour on A News at 6.
Tonight on A News at 6.
This is a historic day, not only in our province, but in the country.
While I am disappointed with the results, the public has very clearly spoken.
The harmonized sales tax is dead. More than 54% of BC voters in the referendum cast ballots to kill the HST.
I'm Louise Hartland. Close to 55% of referendum voters got their way today. Coming up on A News, we talk to the people who are happy to say goodbye to the HST.
I'm Andrew Johnson. The voters have spoken and the HST is on the way out. But what about the hundreds of thousands who voted to keep the tax? Now they're making some dire predictions about our economic future. That story just ahead.
Also tonight, campfire, a fire burning inside a tree at a Vancouver Island youth camp. Those stories and more tonight on A News at 6.
This is A News at 6.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. It is the end of the HST. British Columbia voters have had their say and they have spoken clearly. They have said that the harmonized sales tax must go. so its days are numbered, but it isn't gone yet. More than 1.6 million BC voters cast a ballot in the HST referendum. More than half of them said yes to eliminating the harmonized sales tax, to return to a separate provincial sales tax and the GST. Here are the numbers. More than 54% of voters rejected the tax. That's 9 points more than the roughly 45% who voted to keep it. So what happens now, and what will the impact be on your pocketbook and your family and the provincial economy? Our Stephen Andrew begins our coverage.